Hello. Welcome. Let's make a game. Cthulhu? No, it's my game. Good. Ah, that was right. Nice. So what's the type of game that I wanted to make? Well, I wanted to take essentially cooperative, very key focus for any type of game that I like to make. I like people working together, I like working with your friends. It interests me. Co-op. Co-op. Primary goal. Second one was you controlling a train. So train. Control a train in essentially the cosmos. Think H.P. Lovecraft, cosmic horror type deals. So I came up with the idea of you and your friends controlling a train and you're having to take passengers on board and make sure they arrive to their destination safely. And the main hook that I came up with of the game is essentially that not all passengers are innocent. Some are cultists. Some are cultists. Bad. And their goal is essentially to destroy the train. This is the game we're gonna make. Let's go. The first thing I wanted to get down was a simple to-do list of all the things I want to get done over the next week or so. So here I'm just adding it to my Milo at the moment, just so I have it written down somewhere. In the past I've used things like Trello and stuff, but I just wanted to try something new with Milo, and so far enjoying it. After this, went ahead and created my project in UE5. This is the first time using this engine, so everything was feeling nice and fresh for me, which was cool, I gotta say. First thing I wanted to do was get the size of the carriage down and see kind of how many passengers I wanted on it. In my design I had 12 down, but this was already feeling a bit too bare and spacious, so I ended up doubling it to 24. I'm sure I may regret this decision in the future, but this felt a lot better to me as I really wanted the train to feel more like a public transport train, but a fancy one at that. With the sizing done, I went over to Blender to just create the floor of the train at the same size. This process ended up taking me a couple of hours, as this is kind of my first time really using a 3D editing software on my own. And just kind of figuring out all the shortcuts and stuff took me a bit, but bam, we got ourselves a floor. Yeah, baby. With my newfound confidence, I quickly created a stool in Blender as well. I was actually quite happy with this stool, as for someone not really knowing much about Blender and never really doing this before, getting this pretty quickly was exciting for me, I gotta say. Now it's time for me to move on to blueprints. I turned my carriage into a blueprint, and then also my stools into their own blueprints, so that I could have these little target points on them for the AI to essentially know where their seat was. Okay, so I've got kind of the chairs in, and I've got a basic layout of how I want the passenger carriage to be. Now I need to get essentially the different NPCs or different passengers on board. So for now, I think I'm just going to have them spawn in one by one on a certain delay, and then essentially just pick a random chair, move there, and that will be it. That'll be them selecting their chair and going there. Essentially until all chairs are filled up, and then leave it at that. So that's what I did. I created a basic pawn to use as my passenger, and then pretty much just got to work on creating how I was going to spawn them in. My main goal to begin with just being spawn one passenger in and assigned it a chair to go to. But this didn't quite work. So it was spawning in, but it had no movement or anything like that. So instead of trying to figure out how to get my basic pawn to act like a character, I just decided to create a new third-person project and yoinked that character blueprint. And so that it was my character, I just gave it a nice green material. Perfect. With that spawning incorrectly, I just assigned them a chair and told it to simply just move to its chair, and bam, it worked. We've got basic AI, baby, let's go. From there, I just kept spawning them in until all chairs were taken, and now we have a full carriage of passengers. That's the first day done. Messed around with some Blender, did some AI. Pretty happy with how things are going, to be honest. Them being able to find their seats is just looking really cool, and really looking forward to essentially just adding in multiple carriages, which is probably what I'll work on next, and getting essentially just a nice block out of the actual train itself to really get the feel of what I want the game to look like. So it's week 2, my second day being able to work on the game. So the first thing I wanted to do was essentially build on my train. So I wanted to have the ability to add carriages. So essentially the ability to add an extra passenger carriage, or later on once I get there, the other carriage types in my game, which we'll get to later. I need the nav mesh. To essentially load dynamically. So that's kind of linked to when you add an extra carriage, I need the nav mesh to load dynamically. Currently, it's just static. I've heard that's pretty easy to do, but I haven't done it before, so I wanted to tackle that now. Remove passengers, and then add passengers. Even though I've already added passengers, I want to do it properly. So currently, it's just doing it on play. We need to do it just a better way, not on the level blueprint essentially right now. But that should be relatively easy to take the blueprint that I did create and move that to where I need it. So once they're all done, and I'll be pretty happy if that all works and they're able to travel essentially between the different carriages, I then just want to do some blockouts of carriages. If I can get that done today, I'll be very impressed with myself, but I probably won't be able to get this all done today. But this is kind of my thinking of where I want it to go next. Let's go do it. So I spawned in 3 extra carriages on a timer just to figure out how I was going to store the carriages in kind of like a save file, and then spawn them in the future. Then just getting the nav mesh to load dynamically was as simple as just ticking a tick box inside the project settings, and then just spawning in the passengers on each of the carriages was just simply using the code that I used before. And now we have a full train of passengers. Pretty cool. Next, I wanted to create a way to upgrade and add extra carriages to the train. I was able to get a nice little camera snapping between the carriages, but unfortunately my dog Pippa got unwell and I actually had to take her to the vet and end the day early. Still want to do a lot more throughout the week, so I definitely will, but unfortunately have to take my poor little dog to the vet. So I gotta quickly do that. She's not feeling too well. Poor thing. Luckily it wasn't anything too serious, so she's feeling a lot better now. In my spare time, I was able to get more done throughout the week, so I ended up adding in a placement block, which is this green block. Once you go to it, allows you to place down a passenger carriage just by left clicking at the moment. My aim is to use this later on, which you'll be able to select which carriage you're placing, but this will show essentially where you can place the next carriage. So to finish off, I wanted to create a placeholder station to give the illusion of the train moving, and then have the train stop at the station, which will eventually allow passengers to leave the train and then passengers to come onto the train. I created the station floor in Blender, then brought it into Unreal, then went ahead, turned it into its own blueprint, and started to create what I'm calling a movable object blueprint. My aim with this is so I can have all objects outside the train moving at the speed the train is supposed to be moving at. This will give the illusion that the train is actually moving when it's actually everything outside the train that is moving. With this in, we have the station moving at a set speed, and it looks like the train is moving itself when it's actually the station, and got it working networked as well, so it's looking pretty good. And that's that. I hope you have enjoyed this first look at my development series on Cthulhu Express. I really think it's come along nicely, and I really look forward to showing more of it off as I go along this journey. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, it will help out a lot. If there's anything more you'd like to see in these devlogs, please let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.